Hello everyone, it's Silvia from Starlight Tarot. Welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to have a look at my wish list for Christmas. And I'm talking about tarot and oracle decks that I would like to receive for Christmas. Now, this is obviously a wish list in the sense that I don't know whether I'm going to get those decks and whether I'm going to buy them for myself, or I'm going to ask maybe my husband or a few friends of mine that wanted to give me something if they could get me some of these decks on the list. I thought it would have been a fun video to do because I also would like to start a thread, as in I would love to hear from you guys in the comments below what the tarot and oracle decks are in your wish list. And I thought it would be fun. Now, because Christmas, I'm talking about Christmas 2024. Obviously, these have to be tarot and oracle decks that are available here in Australia in 2024. So this is not a video about my most anticipated decks releases for 2025. There will be a video coming soon about that because I would really like to start this kind of a tradition, perhaps 2 videos a year in which I'm going to explain what my most anticipated releases for the next perhaps 6 months are. I don't think that we can go further ahead than 6 months. Sometimes we do get news about a deck that is going to be printed or released perhaps 8 or 10 months ahead, but it's rather difficult. So by sticking to 6 months is probably going to be a safer bet. But in any case, as I said, today we're just going to focus on these decks on my wish list, and some of them have been released in 2024, some of them are actually older than that, and it doesn't matter because it is literally what I would love to have, and it's my opening up to all of you and telling you what my wishes are for these gifts. Let's see. Okay, so I have to wear my glasses, otherwise I won't be able to see anything. I'm looking at these decks on my iPad, and hopefully, if Mercury allows me to work out how to do this, I'm actually going to share the screen so you can actually still see me, but see the decks on my screen as I'm seeing them right now. But I have to tell you, Mercury retrograde this December has been really nasty to me. There's been a couple of really horrible things happening, even stuff that really never happened to me, as in being hacked. It's solved for now, but there's a number of things that are still happening, so I have no idea. When it comes to technology and communication, Mercury retrograde is really a bloodbath, and so I'm expecting there to be a few issues. Stick with me. Hopefully I'll make it work in the post-processing editing thingy, and we'll see if it works. So, okay, so the first deck that we are going to look at is the Divine Codes Oracle, Activating, Loving, Safe, Truthful, and Divinely Guided, a 46 full color cards and 72-page guidebook, which doesn't sound like much because honestly, if we're looking at 46 cards, then the guidebook having only 72 pages tells me that we're not going to get a lot of information. But in any case, I'm just going to try and open this one. So we're going to have a look at these together. It looks like a really beautiful collage style deck. Divine Codes Oracle, Leah Showman. So I only can access these photos, these cards, as shown in the images from the Amazon website. So this is what I'm going to refer to. I could do some more research into these decks, and sometimes I actually have, but for now, let's have a look at these ones. So 46, obviously, I'm quite happy about the number of cards. 46 is perfectly fine. I always say that I'm happy with 44 cards. 46 is 2 more than what I'm happy about because generally speaking, I tend to use oracle decks in combination with tarot decks. And as a consequence of that, I have to counter the fact that the tarot deck, normal tarot deck, will have 78 cards. And when I don't split it, is rather thick, obviously. So you can have an oracle deck with only 32 cards. looking at you, Los Carabel. When are you going to catch up on that? But even when I split the tarot deck in two, and obviously it also depends on how thick the cardstock is for each and every deck. But generally speaking, 44 is a good number. So we are seeing here, it looks rather interesting, as I said. It's clearly a collage deck. And then opening one of the cards, this one, for example, is card number 1. It says leap of faith, jump out of your comfort zone. And it looks really nice. I know that when we talk about collage decks, it's always a personal matter, as in we may like it, we may not. Obviously, we may even like a couple of cards and other cards we don't, because it's a collage deck, and sometimes it will use images from photographic images from National Geographic issues, for example, or Vogue issues. Some other times, sometimes it's an analog collage, and some other times is a digital collage. So obviously the results are mixed, but I do have really good vibes out of this deck. And moving on to a different image, we've got number 2, which says light body activations. Upgrades and activations are currently underway. Honor your energy accordingly. I love this one. I love this card. And then this one is even better. Look at this. I'm really loving this image and the way the image has been layered or constructed, built up in the card. Let's say I can see a bit of mirroring, for example, and also stacking. Obviously, these are photographic images. So heaven on earth, Lemurian frequencies and collective harmony is coming to fruition. Keep holding the vision. I also like the messages at the bottom of the card. So we've got the number of the card, obviously, which makes it easier to find this card in the guidebook. But we also have a title, Heaven on Earth in this case. And then I also appreciate the fact that we have these messages at the bottom of the card. So moving on to the next one is dive deep, do not resist, just fall, which is very scary for an air sign like me. But letting go of control is not necessarily something that I look forward to doing. But it looks really nice. And as I said, I think that is actually working. Let's see another card here. Cosmic support. Your cosmic team is surrounding you and sending you love. You are forever supported. I do really like photographic images of hands. I have done a study of hands, of a collage of photographic images of hands a few years ago. Hands holding flowers, roses, for example. And I even used that, one of my husband's photos of him holding a rose as the main image for our wedding invitations. I made my own wedding invitations. I think it was rather nice. We actually kept one, so it meant a lot for both of us, so it was rather nice. And I do like to see that in this card as well. And next one, I think that's the last one that we've got. So this one says, empowered empath, you are endlessly in control of your own energy. I wish that were so. If you're an empath, you're not always in control of your own energy. You are safe and protected at all times. I really love this card as well. And let's see what else we got. We do have some more images, as you can see here. We also see the backs of the cards with these 2 roses, which I actually really like. I feel like these cards, this stack could pair up really well with another couple of Oracle decks that I've got. And I think one of them is called the Sea Soul Messages or something like that. So there are also photographic images of the sea and anything related to water. And let's say that it's by Welbeck. And Welbeck has done a really good job because they released the water. So it relates to a chemical symbol. So we've got a water deck, we've got an air deck, we've got a earth deck. We don't have a fire deck yet. I'm kind of hoping that they will release it because I would be very interested if they did. But this one is, I think, is going to pair up really nicely with those Oracle decks, and then any other tarot deck made with collage. And if you watch my top 10 collage deck, you will know that I have a few of those. And the last image that they give us access to is this one. It's really small, but we can still tell the vibes of the deck. So I'm actually really hoping for this one to go under the tree as a gift, because I actually really like it. Let's move on to the next one. So the next deck is very similar, and I believe it's probably also the same publisher. And it's called Starlight Frequencies Oracle. The knowledge you seek is seeking you, which is something I strongly believe in. It's the law of attraction. And the law of manifestation as well. It's still by Leah Showman, so I'm thinking obviously it would probably be the same publisher as well. This one also has a publication date of the 1st of June 2024, which makes me doubt that it's the actual publication date, because it's not a good marketing strategy to release two very similar decks on the same date. To not just similar decks, but by the same author, by the same publisher on the same date. It's just going to end up cannibalizing, making some kind of a competition one against the other, which doesn't really make sense. So I really believe that it's probably two different dates. It's just that they have been released in Australia on the 1st of June. So this one here, let's have a look at what we've got. Unfortunately, it doesn't let me open up the images. So let's see if I can do it this way, but they're not very big. So let's see if I can do something like this. So we can only see this one. I'm actually recording this from my iPad, and it's just giving me trouble because, as I said, Mercury retrograde, we completely understand. This one gives me a lot of cosmic vibes. I don't know whether you have the same impression. We got here, for example, card number 12, Cosmic Light Council. You are being cleared, and I find it very hard to read, to be honest with you. Even though I am wearing my reading glasses, the font is very thin, and it is white against black background, but it is very thin, and somehow it's not very clear. I'm hoping that that's just the way in which it's presented here in these photos, and that will not be the case when we're looking at the actual cards, because that could be a bit of a deal breaker for me. I want to read what's written on a card. I really do believe that if the creator went to the extent of writing something on the cards of a deck they're creating, it means that it meant something for them, and I really want to be able to enjoy that as well. So I'm not necessarily sure that this is just related to the image on the screen here. It does look like the font is nothing like the Divine Codes Oracle we've seen before, not as clear. So I will try and make sure to find, for example, a walkthrough on TikTok, Instagram, or YouTube, just to make sure that I will be able to access the font. But as you can see, very cosmic vibes here. Really beautiful, this card with the hands and the butterflies. And it seems to say optimal self, and then I can't read what it says below. I could probably try and zoom in. Let me just try and do that. I don't know if it's gonna work. No, it didn't, obviously. It's okay, it's fine. I can do that at a different stage, but for now, I'm just gonna focus on the images. I actually really like these images. I don't know what you think. Have you heard of this deck? I have never seen them before, not in any platform that I usually look at. So I would be very interested to know what you think about this deck. If it's still a collage deck, obviously a photographic collage. And let's have a look at this other image here, and we see these Great Awakening, for example, Sacred Prayer, obviously would have been prayer, not prior. Enlightened, very cosmic vibes. I'm thinking these cards would pair up really well, probably with my Star Child Oracle, Star Child Tarot. Sorry about that, Danielle Noel. And so that could be, it feels like it's got different vibes from the Divine Codes Oracle. And that is one of the reasons why I'm actually looking into both these decks. I try and be parsimonious. I try not to get too many decks because I do believe that we need to be moderate in our wish list, let's say. And I know that it's there's something to be said about numbers and quality, volumes and quality. I don't know if you know what I mean. And if I receive 10 decks, I'll be very happy. But if I receive 5 decks, that I really, really want, then I'll be probably happier. Does it make sense? I hope it makes sense. But this one, so quite different vibes from the first one that I was showing. So definitely going into my wish list as well. Let's move on to the next deck. So this third deck is another oracle deck. I haven't actually been counting or tallying up whether I have more tarot decks or more oracle decks in my wish list. But this is called the Feminine Wisdom Oracle, Awaken Your Intuitive Energy, and it's released by Rockpool. And it says it's been released on the 31st of July 2024, this year. I have honestly only seen it at the Mind Body Spirit Festival here in Sydney at the Rockpool stand. And I think that they were actually introducing it to the market. So, and the festival was at the end of October, so it doesn't really match up with the release date. I don't know whether, it probably has been released but has not been noticed. And again, I have not seen this deck anywhere. It could be very interesting. We don't have much here. We have this photo, just image here to scroll through, but I would just scroll down and have a look because I believe that there's a little bit more information following. And yes, so I explore more from the brand Rockpool Publishing. No, I just want to see from this one here. So as we can see here, Feminine Wisdom Oracle, Awaken Your Intuitive Energy. So we got a few more cards. It says it's only 36 cards, which is a bit of a bummer for me because this is a deluxe, or it's called a deluxe product by Rockpool, which means that they're actually marking up the price. Generally speaking, if you're in Australia, you can buy a Rockpool Oracle from some retailers, not from Rockpool. Rockpool actually prices their standard line oracles at 35 Australian dollars, I believe. But you can actually find them for $25, $26 from other resellers, retailers. But the fact that it's a deluxe product means that it's priced at $45, $46. And it does have a nice box, if I am correct, if I know what I'm talking about, because I do have other Oracle decks from the deluxe edition, deluxe line. Not this one, but they look very similar. And they come with a box that opens up like a book. So it's got a ribbon, it's nicer. But 36 cards is not enough. I was just saying it earlier. But in any case, let's have a look at the images. I did not know that it was 36 cards, to be honest with you. That's why I put it in my wish list. So we got harmony. And let's read about this. So it says, step into your inner peace, as peace is your power in this phase of your life. To live in harmony means honoring your truth, calming your mind and nourishing your body. Harmony is about balance and how you perceive and respond to the outside world. Dedicating this time to a harmonious life will result in greater productivity and a clear path towards your deepest dreams. Affirmation: I achieve my goals with ease. I wish. Okay, I love the artwork. I feel like it's got some really calming vibes, nurturing vibes. So I don't know whether that was the intention. It looks like it would go really well with the Earth Woman Tarot by Los Carabel, which is also a 2024 release, which I don't have. And I'm gutted that I don't think I will resonate with that deck. And the simple reason is that all of the faces have no, or rather, all of the characters have no face. And that creates a bit of a struggle for my brain. It's just the way in which I process the images. Not seeing eyes and a mouth, especially not being able to tell the expression on a face, is actually a deal breaker for me. And I have been known to rehome the Monsoon Tarot, which I actually really liked, but because I couldn't see, there were no faces, that was really hard for me to use. However, I do like the Awake Tarot. Sorry, what's it called? The Silent. I don't remember what the name of the deck is. It's the same producer as the Monsoon Tarot. And it's got two editions, one with the faces and one without. So the silent one or the night one has no faces, but the awake version of the deck has the faces, and I have that one in both the mini edition and the standard size edition, and I really love them. They're very beautiful, very calming vibes as well as much as this one. So it will probably pair up really well with that one as well. But I was talking about the Earth Woman Tarot by Los Carabel, and that is actually one of the decks that is a runner-up for many of us in the tarot community as one of the best top 10 mass market decks of 2024. But as I said, for me, unfortunately, it wouldn't work because of lack of faces. Am I the only one out there that needs to see a face? I need to see a reaction, a face expression, because otherwise it kind of, I don't know, it's difficult. It creates a bit of a dissonance, a cognitive dissonance for my brain. Please let me know if you have the same issue, because I would be very interested to know. I'm always fascinated by these kind of things. So then we have forgiveness, and then we have progress, which looks like a person doing a yoga. I find it very, very calming. I really, really enjoy this. And then, no, it talks about other decks, and that's about it. So that's a pity, because we can only see 3 cards or a bunch of cards in the background there. And I would have preferred to see or to have access to more cards. So what I'll do, I'll definitely check out if there's a walkthrough somewhere, even though, as I said, I haven't seen it anywhere, because I'm actually really considering getting this deck. It is a affordable price, even though it is a deluxe edition on Amazon. As I said, on the Rockpool website is probably marked at 45 Australian dollars, but you need to check on your own country. It might be different pricing. I have no idea. In any case, I'm not entirely sure about this one. I will probably have to do more research. But let's move on to the next one. So the next deck we're looking at is actually a French version of a very well-known English published, I think it was originally published in English, and it's a tarot deck, Maggie Seafather. Maggie Seafather is very famous because she's also a very well-known author of fantasy. I think is YA fantasy. I'm not entirely sure because I haven't read anything, at least not yet. I do have some of her books in my TBR, or at least in my wish list. And she made this deck a few years ago, so it does look like at least the French edition of this deck was published on the 12th of March 2019. Now this one is, so in English it's called the Raven's Prophecy, I believe, Tarot. There is only one image provided by Amazon on their website. However, when you scroll down, there is a lovely reviewer that actually kindly has taken a lot of photos, and we're going to have a look at these photos. The reason why I will reach out for the French edition and not the English edition is because the font at the bottom of the card is a lot better. I do prefer it quite a lot. And I also believe, I could be wrong, but I also believe that the orange tone of the background is slightly different from the English edition. As a matter of fact, if you have this deck in the French edition, please let me know. But let's have a look at these photos. So as you can see, so if you have the English edition, you will notice immediately that the font is different. I prefer 100% this type of font. And yes, sometimes a font is making it or breaking it for me, because I've actually considered buying this deck in English, but then chopping off the borders, the orange borders, and just keeping the maybe a sliver of an orange border, and just write with a Sharpie, for example, write, I don't know, the number for the major arcanas and the minor arcanas. So getting rid also of the titles, because I really don't like the font. So thanks to Au Fil du Temps, we are actually accessing some of these images, and I really like it. I know that this feels, for many of us, it feels like it's a Halloween type of deck. And it probably is. And so, this is a different season. We have been through Halloween, we've been to Spooktober, but I feel that this deck is actually very good and can be used throughout, other seasons of the year as well. It is a very powerful deck. The images are very strong and potent, and it's one of the reasons why I actually want this deck, and eventually I will get it. But as I said, much rather prefer the font on the French edition rather than the English one. I think it's even more affordable in the French edition. Obviously, it has to come from Europe, I believe, in my case, in order to get free shipping on Amazon, probably Amazon Germany. Amazon Australia has a deal with Amazon Germany, so we get access to their stock and shipped for free, but it obviously takes a couple of weeks, which is absolutely fine. But as you can see, I really love this deck. It's got a lot of really strong vibes, and yes, darker vibes, if I have to be honest, darker vibes, but I'm absolutely fine with that. And sometimes we need darker vibes as well. And you know me, and you know that I actually do appreciate darker decks. Perhaps not every day. I do feel the need to brighten up my day sometimes with a hug deck. But I do use a lot of darker decks, even in brighter days, sometimes because I want to bring back some kind of balance. I'm an air sign, so I tend to float, and sometimes I need something grounding me. And sometimes that thing that is going to ground me is a powerful deck like this one, and maybe a shadow work deck, something like that. So as you can see, really beautiful, really beautiful images. I'm really convinced now that I'm looking at this. I am really convinced because I don't think I will have to make any kind of modification to this deck to make it workable for me. Whereas if I did get the one by in the English edition, I probably wouldn't. So we'll see in any case. But I'm very grateful to this reviewer. It's a review from a long time ago, so 5, almost 6 years ago. Very grateful to this reviewer for sharing these images. And so this is another deck that is definitely on my Christmas wish list. So another deck that is on my wish list is the Familiar Field Oracle by Hannah Elizabeth Fofana. Sorry about that. Don't actually know where to put the accent. This is a US Games, I believe, deck, yes, and it has been published on the 5th of November 2024, again in Australia. I know that this sounds like it's a million years after the official release in the US, but that's the way it is in Australia. Let me just open the images. I believe we can actually do that for this one. So this is the box. Yes, this is also the author, the same author of the Field Tarot, which is really beautiful as well. Very kind of similar vibes, but this one is the Familiar Field. So obviously I'm expecting it to be 100% about animals, which is totally okay. I don't know whether I will want to pair this up with the Field Tarot. Ironically, when I was using, there was a period of time in which I was using the Field Tarot a lot, and I felt like pairing it up with the Margarete Pedersen Tarot, which is also another tarot deck. So maybe the Familiar Field will pair up well with that tarot deck. I don't know. I'll have to try that out when I acquire this deck. So let's have a look at the images. We got this, the bear. So I like it because we got the image, we got the title of the card, which is, yes, the bear. I know it's a bear, but that's why I always want some keywords, because I don't necessarily need a keyword or a title to let me know that this is a bear, although there are animals that I don't know how they're called in English. So probably the title will be beneficial for me. But in any case, so we've got the keywords protection, courage, and rest. And I like that. I like to be able to make these kind of associations. Then we're moving on to the wolf, with wildness, leadership, and kingship. Which I think resonate a lot with at least this image of a wolf. And then we've got the zebra with uniqueness, expression, and resistance. And moving on, we've got the bat with insight, sensitivity, and darkness. I definitely vibe with darkness. insight because of the radar system, sensitivity also because of the radar. Really loving these keywords, by the way. I don't know all the animals, obviously. I know the animals, but I don't know what the symbology can be and what we can associate with these specific animals. But I do like to be able to dig deeper into these meanings of these cards. So the eagle with freedom, of course, perspective, yes, because, you know, we say bird's eye view, obviously, in victory. And then we're moving on to the turtle with endurance. Absolutely. The turtle is a symbol for longevity. And the second keyword is indeed longevity. I'm referring to the Chinese lore. And then we got evolution, which is pointing to the fact that turtles are some of the most ancient animals. And as a matter of fact, they do look like dinosaurs a little bit. And then we're moving on to the whale, which is, this is actually an orca whale or a killer whale. So I don't know if I would have preferred the title to be specific to this kind of species of whales, or if I accept that the killer whale is embodying all of the whales. To me, the killer whales or orca are completely different from the idea that I have of a general non-specific type of whale. But let's have a look at the keywords. So it says magnificence. Yeah, I agree. Compassion. No, killer whales are not necessarily compassionate. I don't know necessarily a lot about killer whales, but if you look at traditional law, you will see that they're actually not, let's say, the most compassionate of animals. There's a lot of stories. There's also a horror movie, and I don't think it does justice to the animal. It's really a magnificent animal. But I do know a few stories. So killer whales, they come to Australia as well. And there is a place which is called Eden in the southern part of New South Wales where you can actually see them passing by. There is a cliff top and there's a viewpoint and you can stand there and see them coming through. And there's a lot of, there's even a museum. And they refer to killer whales as whales that actually attack the southern right whales. So when there's a southern right whales migration in Australia, there's killer whales out there attacking pods of southern right whales. That was what I was reading in the museum. I don't know whether it's something that is normal or something very specific to this area, part of the world. As I said, my knowledge is very limited when it comes to killer whales, but I do not necessarily feel like, in my own experience, which may be very limited, but I don't resonate with the word compassion as associated to orcas. History, yes, for sure, but I would have probably preferred to see a different type of whale on the image. Having said that, I really do like them. So there's this and that. Then we're looking at the backs, which is very scaly type, iridescent looking, which I actually really like. And this is probably the guidebook, yes, Familiar Field guidebook. Really interested into this deck and also kind of curious to see if, as I said, will pair up with the Peterson Tarot. Could be an idea. Let's move on to the next deck. So the next deck is probably taking a big spot, a big part in my heart, because the illustrator is Anatolian. And if you've been watching any of my videos for any length of time, you will know how much I love Anatolia's work. This deck is an oracle, not a tarot deck, which is, she has made oracle decks before, the Oracle of Echoes, for example. But this one is, I believe, I could be wrong, but this one is, I believe, the first oracle deck that is actually being released mass market. I could be wrong. This one has been co-authored, it looks like, by Anna and Daniel Ahern. Again, sorry if I'm mispronouncing the name. So this is the Pathwork Oracle, and it's got very specific themes. I have seen the first time this deck on Alet's channel, Project Refine Life, and I really loved it. And let's just have a look at the cards, because obviously we're all here for that. Very recognizable, you know, the artwork by Anna. You can always tell that she has a very distinct kind of signature style. And I appreciate that, because it's almost as if I was reading a book by an author that I really love. And when I find a new author that I really love, I want to read all of their books. And it doesn't necessarily mean that I'm going to like all of them, but I want to experience all of them, because it's almost as if I were acquainted with someone new. And it's a new friend, and I really like this new friend. So very distinct style. Loving kindness for self, may I be filled with peace. Very compassionate deck. This is obviously practicing kindness, the kind way. Equanimity for loved ones, may you see things as they are. That is a really beautiful card, and I actually really love the way in which this character is touching on the third eye, or this chakra in specific, because the third eye chakra, because it's something that obviously reflects into our own intuition. And as a tarot reader, intuition is extremely important for me. So I like it when I see in an oracle deck, in a tarot deck, that the creator and the illustrator are on the same page as to believe in intuition. And we're moving on to the next card. And this one reminds me a lot of the Oracle of Echoes because of the colors, probably, but also because of the line work. Equanimity for all sentient beings. May we all see things as they are. I wish. This is probably one of the most difficult things to achieve, for everyone to see things as they are. I don't think it's ever been possible. I think that it's not because people don't want to see things as they are. I think that we all set out to seek out the truth when knowing things and when getting information about things, but it's very difficult because we have to shift through channels of information, and even when we trust one specific channel of information, sometimes they're actually not entirely true, or they're not showing us the truth, or maybe just partially so. So I find that very difficult, and this is a very strong wishful thinking for me. Maybe I'm having a very jaded vision of things and how we process information, but this is really, it would be wonderful if all of us could actually see things as they truly are. I don't know whether that would be possible ever. In any case, I forgive myself for injury and pain I cause myself consciously or unconsciously. I offer myself forgiveness. This is a fantastic card. So the path to kindness is very important, and I've been practicing kindness for many, many years. Actually, I can tell you when. It was back in November 2014, so 10 years ago, just over 10 years ago, I was in New York with one of my closest friends. She was dying. She had terminal stage stomach cancer. And one of her dreams was to go to New York. She had never been. So I flew from Sydney back to Amsterdam, picked her up, and we flew together to New York. And I remember, and she was tired all the time, as you can imagine, but she made it. We stayed there 12 days, and it was the most beautiful experience. And she was, I like to believe that she was really happy, at least for those days. She certainly was happy, and she told me so, to have been able to finally see New York. And I remember we were so she was really tired, so we had to stop by in a Starbucks and to just grab something to drink, pick me up. And outside of this specific Starbucks, there was an installation, and it was, you might have seen it because it was the word hope, written H-O, and then below P-E, so H-O-P-E, in really strong saturated red cubical characters. It was a sculpture. And then there was a writing at the bottom, and it would say, treat everyone with kindness because you don't know what they're going through. And that is I know that we've heard that phrase before like a million times. It's nothing new. I'm not saying that it's new, but you know when something really hits you, because we went in that Starbucks and it was packed. Imagine the end of of November in New York. There were already Christmas decorations out, and it was just really, really busy. So that Starbucks was packed. And there was this lady that was kind of complaining at first, mumbling, and then really out loud complaining that this friend of mine was taking the last seat. And I just, I remember thinking to myself, should I say something? And my friend's husband that was there with us, he immediately took over and he told this lady, you don't know what my wife is going through, so, don't. don't complain. She needs to sit right now. And I think that he was being assertive, obviously, and you know, rightly so, because this lady wasn't being very pleasant. But I think that she kind of understood what was going on, and so she didn't say anything else. But ever since then, I decided not to be that person, because you never know. Yes, of course, it looked like my friend was looking very good that moment, rosy cheeks and everything, and you know she was 52, I believe, at the time. And obviously she looked like she was fine. So, and this lady was older, so you know she was thinking, oh, you should leave the seat for me. But I don't want to be that person. And practicing kindness and never judging, it's kind of been, I've reminded myself of that for the last 10 years because of that episode. And then moving on to the next card. So we got Prithvi Mudra. Turn towards the sheer suffering of all sentient beings. That is something an empath will always do, to a point that sometimes it can become overwhelming. So if you are an empath, just always be aware of preserving your own energy because you need it. And then we've got Mind. Really beautiful card. And then we've got, this really beautiful elephant sitting on a lotus flower. Really beautiful. Akshobhya, wisdom. Obviously, also the sense of lightness. I really, really like this card. Really lovely, very, very light vibes. And these, I believe, are the backs, which are really gorgeous. I mean, look at the combination with the colors and the tree of life coming out of the mind of the person, but also of the root chakra of the person. Really fantastic. And this is probably the guidebook. Yes, it's the guidebook. Really looking forward to this deck. Let's have a look at the next one. So the next deck on my wish list for Christmas is another tarot deck, and this one is a Llewellyn, a release from the 15th of July 2024. Again, release date in Australia, so I don't know when the actual release date was for this deck in the US. It is called the Bee Tarot by Christopher Hughes and Nadia Turner. It is a Llewellyn deck, so obviously is coming with, what you see here is the Black Friday deal, because I'm actually filming this video on Black Friday. So it's an excellent deal. I'm not complaining. Generally speaking, Llewellyn decks in Australia are around $50 to $60 on online retailers, and about $75 to $80 on a brick and mortar shop. So $30 is actually really cheap, and I think that I may actually take advantage of the Black Friday deal because I've never seen it so cheap, and I really want this deck. But let's have a look. So I'm actually going through the images here. So we see three. So it's obviously based around bees. It's not a secret if there's a deck called the Bee Tarot, you would imagine so. These ones are the backs, I believe, which are not reversible, because you can actually see there's a smear of red at the top left, but there isn't one on the right bottom. So it's fine. Although, you know what, I don't shuffle reversals. I do read reversals, but I decide when a card needs to be read as a reversal, depending on the position, depending on the prompt of the layout of the spread that I'm using, depending on the cards around it, and so on and so forth. So I don't really mind, honestly. And then we're looking at the Two of Pentacles, obviously being bees a theme. We're seeing a lot of bees in this deck. It does have I thought it would have been a very summery kind of deck, but this card to me speaks of winter. It almost looks like this. We're looking at a snow-covered landscape, which is really, I really love that. So related to the Suit of Pentacles, I wouldn't necessarily relate the Suit of Pentacles with winter. Pentacles is earth, but I am accepting that. I'm absolutely fine. And as a matter of fact, whenever there is something that is different from what I'm used to, I'm really interested, because it might mean that I may learn something new, which I'm always after and I'm always grateful for. So moving on to the next image, the Six of Wands. That's a really beautiful depiction of the Six of Wands, because contrary to what we're used to see, this person is not riding away from the viewer, is riding towards the viewer, towards us. So I find it a very interesting way to paint these this card, even though I don't see people around. Generally speaking, the Six of Wands for me, it's the card of victory, but it's also containing a caveat or a warning, as in you have reached the project, the goal you wanted to reach. You have done that. Congratulations, you won. However, never forget. And that's the lesson of the Six of Wands. Never forget that you only were able to get there thanks to the help of your team. Because if you don't acknowledge, if you don't give credit where credit is due, then you'll find yourself, as a sequence to that, in a Seven of Wands situation in which you're finding yourself really confused, being attacked by everyone for what you're doing, what you're saying, what your opinion, etc. And you have to show resilience and you have to stick up for your own guns. And so when it looks like that, when you're looking at it like that, I would prefer to see like the original way of depicting the Six of Wands, in which you see the persons around you, around the winner, celebrating together with the winner, only to find out that the winner is actually keeping all the money, all the prize money. And that's where you find yourself in a Seven of Wands situation. Now we're having the Seven of Jars, which I'm assuming is the renaming for the Suit of Cups, which I'm absolutely fine with. I love the fact that it's jars of honey. I personally use a lot of honey. We used to live in a place next to a neighbor that had their own beehive, and I had honey for free all year round, and it was absolutely superb. Really, really intense flavor. I really loved it, and unfortunately we moved, so we don't have that anymore. But it was, it was some really nice honey. I can tell you the handmade one, the artisanal one is really excellent. And really, if you go to the supermarket, even when you spend a little bit more for a jar of honey, it's not the same as the artisanal one, unfortunately. Then we're moving on to the Empress. I really love the Empress. I love the colors on this card. I'm really convinced that I'm going to enjoy this deck, even though you may never be sure, because I really believe you need to have that deck in your hands in order to be able to know whether you resonate with that or not. But I think I will like this one. Let's move on to the next one. So you guys know me, and you know that I like and I enjoy darker decks, so there's nothing to be ashamed about. So of course there had to be a darker or darkish kind of deck in my Christmas wish list, and in this case is, and again, a deck that I've never seen before. It has been released, mind you, it has been released only on the 8th of December this year. It is a Los Carabao deck, so I believe that they have a worldwide release date. I'm not entirely sure. I am not able to get it. As you can see here, it will have to come from Amazon US, but when it says usually dispatched within 4 to 6 weeks, it means that it's not in stock. They have to get it over. It's fine. I will find a way. And if not, I will just put it on my wish list for next year, so be it. But I just wanted to show you the images because it's called the Incubus Tarot. Sorry about that, I forgot to tell. And it's made by Davide Furneaux and Charles Harrington. I am very curious about this combination of authors, so I'm really looking forward to get more images, see more of this deck. It's called the Incubus Tarot, so obviously it's referring. So Incubus is believed to be traditionally the beings, supernatural beings that were sitting on your chest when you were sleeping. That's kind of called incubus. Incubus in Latin means nightmare. And it has come to mean other types of beings, obviously. But in this case, I think it's still referring back to that sense of sleep paralysis that you get. And people try to justify with, imagining that there was this being sitting on your chest and making you unable to move and to breathe. So obviously it's very dark, the premises are very dark, and as you would expect, the deck itself is very dark. As you can see here, we got the Fool card and the Chariot, for example. We've got, these are the backs, as you can see here. Very dark, very powerful. It does remind me a lot of the Shadow Myth Oracle deck that I've shown a couple of times. Which doesn't have keywords, but it doesn't matter because it's actually very, very powerful, and I feel like it talks. It's a very communicative kind of deck. Shadow Myth is called. The Fool, so we've seen that. Loving this card. You know what? It reminds me a little bit of the Joker Tarot when it comes to this Fool card, because the Fool, the character, the Fool on the card, looks very provocative. It looks like obviously breaking the fourth wall, look directly at the reader, at you, and you know, almost forcing you to have this kind of acknowledgement that you can see and he can see you. So it's actually really, it could be upsetting, it could be triggering, but I feel like it's actually, I like this kind of card. I know that it's not for everyone. I know that it's not everyone's cup of tea. It's absolutely fine if you don't like this deck. I mean, this is my wish list. Obviously, it's my taste. And this is the Chariot card, as you can see here. Very powerful as well. Very intense, this charioteer. Very, very intense. It looks like Marilyn Manson. Does it look like Marilyn Manson to you? It does to me. And then we're moving on to the Tower, which is just as scary. And this one actually reminds me of a movie from, gosh, like 20, 25 years ago. I don't even remember. It was called The Cell with J-Lo. And so the premises of that movie were very interesting because it showed a software, or a machine rather, that let a psychiatrist enter the mind of a serial killer because they need to find out where he's hiding his latest victim. And so J-Lo is playing this psychiatrist, and thanks to this machine, she can enter his brain, and as almost as if it were like a VR play, a virtual reality kind of game. And she literally, well, I don't want to spoil it for you if you haven't watched it. I actually really do enjoy that kind of movie, and it reminds me. So there are lots of really odd stuff in there because obviously it is the mind of a serial killer, and ironically, it is depicted when she enters his mind, she gets access to his visions, and obviously they're very disturbed. And so this reminds me of one of the characters that she encounters on that visions. Let me just quickly scroll down to see whether we have a bit more of images. No, there's absolutely nothing, which is a pity. But it is a very recent release, so I'm expecting there to be more images in the next couple of weeks. At least I'm hoping so. And let's move on to the next one. So the next deck on my wish list for this Christmas is called New York City Tarot, Big Apple Divination for the Greatest City on Earth. Yes. So there's a couple of decks about New York, I believe. One is the Urban Tarot, which I really love, and I have, and that's a mass market deck. And another one is called Midnight City Tarot, and it's an indie deck, and it is based on New York. So that would be really cool. It does have a specific color palette, so it's not for everyone, whereas I may say perhaps the Urban Tarot is easier to be liked by people, even though it is a thought-inspired deck. So you have to take that into account. If thought is not your system, then obviously. But I'm very curious about this one because I've heard about it. This one was released at the beginning of this year, and I don't know why there's not a lot of channels or as I said, other social media platforms that actually show you this deck. It would be very interesting. I had a look at the cards, obviously, but I am very curious to see if this deck will give me the same idea that I have about New York, because I've been to New York several times. It's one of my favorite cities in the world for landscape photography or architectural photography. I've actually been there for work when I was still producing a TV show on photography. And I've been there for many other reasons. So my experience of New York is very specific to enjoying the vibes of the city. I love Woody Allen movies based on New York and in New York. So I have a very poetic and probably adulterated view of the city, which is not necessarily corresponding to the soul of the city itself. But I have been a fan of Friends, which was based in New York, and How I Met Your Mother, which is based in New York. So obviously, I also have been given access to these creators' view of the city itself. So it would be very interesting to see what this tarot deck is giving me as vibes. But let's have a look at the cards. So this is the box, and this is the back of the box. So we can see a little bit of the cards, but not too much, although I can already see that there's a cat. So I'm probably gonna like this deck. So the first card is the Fool, which obviously looks like an airport, but it's a bit odd because it looks like this plane is actually landing rather than taking off. Or maybe the runway is behind the terminal, and so, but no, it really looks like it's going in a downward trajectory. So I don't necessarily associate the Fool with arriving to a place rather than, leaving a place and taking off. So that would be interesting. I would be interested to read what the guidebook says about this Fool card. If you have this deck, please let me know. If you could please go to the guidebook and read about it, the Fool, and let me know what the meaning of the card is, because I don't really see that as the Fool card. Rather, if you want, it could be the World card. It could be other cards, but not necessarily a landing, like arriving to a place. But maybe it's a Fool because, hang on a second, I think I cracked it. So it could be the Fool because it could be someone that has just arrived to New York to start a new life. Sorry, okay. I'm on board, absolutely fine. It took me a while to get that. So we see obviously the yellow caps, the magician. Do I associate the typical yellow New York City taxis with the magician? Maybe I can see that somehow. I would have preferred to see the chariot as a taxi cab, but I do still feel like, taxis have all of their resources and they're going places. I can see something around that. I'm not entirely sure, but I do. The High Priestess is obviously this really beautiful garden in an enclosed space. I get the relationship with nature and the flowers. I would still have to look through the guidebook in order to see and check whether I vibe with this interpretation or not. The Empress is someone in what looks like either a bodega or a small supermarket shopping for what looks like potato chips, but behind it there's a cat and there's also plenty of flowers. That's the reason why I'm thinking it's probably more like a bottega, because they have all of these things in very narrow aisles in New York. Especially when I go to New York, I make it a point to always stay in Williamsburg. It's my favorite suburb, which is not in Manhattan Island. It's actually in Brooklyn, but it's on the upper eastern part of Brooklyn, not down south. But in any case, so it's a very, very cultural, very eclectic kind of suburb. Having said that, the last time I was there was back in 2018, so it may have changed. It is a long time ago, so I really should get back. So I'm okay with this. I mean, shopping for groceries, providing for your family, nurturing kind, yes. The Emperor, again, with these typos, I honestly, why are there so many cards on decks that spell Emperor in this way? So EMPORER. It's actually, it's swapped. So the E and the O are swapped. I know that when you read it, it sounds the same. Emperor, Emperor. I get it. But wouldn't we have people proofreading decks? In any case, it is the Empire State Building. So I kind of get it. Emperor, Empire State Building, Empire. I get it. It's fine. And I love those buildings. I love architecture in New York. Not all the buildings, but many of them. And then the last card that we have been graced to see is the Hierophant with the New York Public Library, of course, and someone reading on their steps. I get it. I actually like it. Why? Because having done the study on the classes and constellations on the major arcanas, I will tell you that the Hierophant has the principle of learning and teaching, not just teaching, also learning. And the reason why the Hierophant needs to learn as well as teach is in order to be able to always get updated on what to teach in order for them to teach something that is not obsolete. If the Hierophant stops learning, whatever they're teaching becomes dated, but because it still carries a lot of authority, when you teach something that it's dated with a lot of authority, it becomes a dogma. And so that is what prevents the Hierophant. The constant learning prevents the Hierophant to teach dogmas. I like that interpretation, and I like that it's someone that is reading a book. So that was another deck. Let's move on to the last one of these decks that are on my wish list for Christmas. So the last deck on my wish list for Christmas is another mass market deck, but this is a French edition of an indie English deck. So it's called the Moon Void Tarot by Stephanie Caponi, and you'll probably know this deck is very famous. And I have to say, I'm quite happy that Arcana Sacra has decided to release this deck in French as a mass market deck. I haven't seen anyone use this deck in French, but if you love the Moon Void Tarot, and because of for many reasons you cannot reach out for the indie edition, perhaps it's too expensive. This is a mass market deck, and at 51 Australian dollars is actually a really good price. It's also because it's coming from Amazon UK. But let's have a look at some of the images here. Unfortunately, it doesn't let me. That's really odd. Okay, sorry about that. I thought that I would be able to open up all of the images. You probably know this deck, obviously. It is portraying the creator of the deck itself in many, many poses. And what I like about that is that she's wearing reading glasses and she's not ashamed of that. So, you know, sometimes you think about having to present the best image of yourself in social media, but if I need reading glasses to feel comfortable in reading, I don't see why I have to take them off. In any case, it's just me. This is really beautiful. It's a black and white tarot. Although I do believe that, for example, we can see the backs here and there is some red in the heart. And obviously there is a really nice guidebook, which will be in French, but that is not a problem. I like the fact that when you see the Hierophant here, for example, you see that there's this divination crystal ball and the phases of the moon, but the crystal ball is actually perched on top of two books and there's a pair of reading glasses at the bottom. So I really like this idea of not just accepting the fact that we need reading glasses, but also glorifying that and accepting them as part of ourselves as well. So that's quite nice. And then obviously, so the operation behind this deck is to portray the creator of this deck in many different poses as to symbolize the characters on the card. So obviously the High Priestess here, but also Strength, as you can see. I don't know if you can see a lot here, but there's a couple of, there's a Two of Pentacles and what I believe is either the Three of the Two of Cups. And as you can see, they are rather pippish. So you need to know this about this deck. If you don't like a pippish deck, that looks absolutely fine. But I'm actually really looking forward to this deck because I wanted the English edition. Then I believe it went out of print or something like that. I believe now it's still in print, but it's still quite expensive to get, especially because of shipping costs and everything. And so the French edition could be a valid alternative for me. But that was it. That was it. So this is literally all of the mass market decks that are on my wish list for Christmas. And as I said at the beginning of this video, so I am thinking about doing a video probably at the end of the month in which I will show you my most anticipated releases, mass market deck releases for 2025, or at least for the first 6 months of 2025. And I really want this to start a conversation. So if you are seeking for tarot oracle decks in your wish list as a present for Christmas, let me know in the comments below. It will be very nice. And hopefully I will also learn about a few other decks that are not on my wish list, but they will get on my wish list because I didn't know about them before, and you will tell me about them. Thank you so much for watching and have a great day.